Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. So I promised you a Facebook Live on Kinky Tantra, and I invited you to send me questions. And I got a whole bunch of questions. So let's see how far I'm going to get tonight. Hello everyone, welcome. So good to see you all here. Feel free to keep questions on Kinky Tantra coming. And again, let's see how far I get tonight. But yeah, thank you all for your interest in Kinky Tantra. This is something I came up with. It's something I created a while ago, because I am so fascinated both by the path of Tantra and the path of kink, of conscious kink. And I decided that I wanted to combine both. And so I created this thing where I do combine both in my personal way, where I put a lot of emphasis on going slow and embodying, feeling things in the body, and then really getting to know your own body as an instrument, getting to know your own boundaries and desires from a felt space. So not just from the mind, but from a felt space. And combining both the aspects of Tantra and aspects from kink in this practice that in my personal life and what I see around me is such a beautiful flavor to add to your personal practice, whether that is Tantra, whether that's kink, or whether that is any other kind of yoga or meditation practice. So why is this so amazing? Hello everyone, thank you for joining, thank you for the hearts and the likes, thank you. So what are both and why do I combine them? Because some people say like Tantra is something sacred, why would you do anything with that? Why would you change that? Or why add something to kink? And what I see is that both have more in common than we might think. Both are practices to go deep. Both are a personal journey, are a kind of a spiritual journey, are a journey into feeling, are a journey into our own realms of going bigger than we are in our minds and bodies as we are. Both are practices. Both work with submitting to something higher, and I'm not talking about domination submissive dynamic here, it's about something bigger. And both work with polarity. And on the one hand, Tantra works with a polarity of Yin and Yang, often translated as masculine and feminine, and often confused with male-female. So let me stay with the Yin and Yang, where the Yang is kind of like the container for the Yin, the contained. So there is one flow of direction, of kind of like the guide of something, whereas the other polarity is flowing in that space. And you can almost literally lay that over a dynamic in kink where one is leading and one is following, and often there the words of domination and submissive are used, words that I don't like that much because they have a lot of stigma, where there is like in Tantra there is a lot of stigma, where in kink we think that the man is leading and the woman is following, and I very much dislike any gender normativity or heteronormativity happening either in Tantra or in kink, and in both practices that happens a lot. So those are things that I kind of like take out of the equation, these paradigms, these stigmas, this gender normativity. But I do like to work with the polarity. So what I really like why adding kink to Tantra? Well, if we take, Tantra is very big, Tantra is very broad, it's not a sexual practice, it's a way of life, it's a way of living, and the biggest part of it is meditation. The biggest part is meditation, it's a solo practice, and just a tiny bit of Tantra is actually interaction with another person, and of that even a tiny bit is sexual. But I like to play with it. I like intimacy. I like playing with I was gone for just a second. So I like playing with people. I like playing with polarity because using people as a mirror can teach us so much about ourselves. So I take a part of the Tantra, both the going inwards, both the meditation and the connecting to other people. And Tantra, one of the things that Tantra is to me is being present with as little judgment as possible with whatever comes up in the moment. Not just easy things, not just the nice things, but also the difficult things. So to me, by now, anger and sadness are kind of easy to be with, but can I also be with being afraid? Can I be with being triggered? Can I be with deep anxiety, apprehension, boredom, feeling grumpy? Can I be with all of that without trying to change it, but being with that? In sexuality, that translates for me like no orientedness towards or away from orgasm, but being with whatever is there. And a flavor in Tantra that I sometimes kind of miss is the part where we also accept that part of us that just wants to hurt people. Like, we all have that. We can say like, okay, this is bad, this is like a perpetrator, but we all have that part in us. We also have a part in us that just wants to let things happen. And I know this is edgy. But if we push those parts away, if we push them like pushing a ball underwater, it wants to come up. So if we push those parts of us away, then they become dangerous. So can we be with those parts? Can we actually, can we be with those parts and maybe give them space in a way that's helpful? Can we turn these demons into allies that actually help us and help other people? So I don't like the kink where we like really intentionally hurt someone because we are mean, because we have frustrations to all women. So let's hurt a woman, or let's hurt a man because I'm angry with all the men in my life. No, I don't like that. We might tap into it a little bit to get to somewhere, get to our own dark shades and work with it to support another being in a good way. I know, this is edgy stuff. But can we also be with that part? We all have an inner murderer. We all have an inner victim. Can we like consciously allow compassion for these parts in us and then play with it in a conscious way, in a safe way? One of the questions I got is how to take care of everyone feeling safe. Well, it's super simple. There is one difference between abuse and play, and that's consent. It's the only difference between anything that's abusive and anything that is within agreement and actually helpful, and that's consent. So before anything happens in any of my workshops, we go inwards. We go connect to ourselves. We go get to know our bodies. You'll get those physical imprints of what it feels like when there's a desire, what it feels like when there's a boundary. Not just when your head says something, because our heads have these beliefs, have these thoughts, have these limitations, have this social conditioning. There's a lot happening in our heads. But how does it feel? So before anything happens, we're going to feel in the body. You get your own manual of how you work. You get to know how your body responds to something you want to dive into or something you want to walk away from. And then when you get that information in your body, because this is different, how your body talks to you, how your body communicates your boundaries and desires is different for every person. So I'm giving you tools to tune into your body instead of me telling you what it feels like, because I know what my body feels like, but I have no idea what your body feels like. So I'll give you the tools, not the answers. And then with that, before you're even gonna touch a person, you're gonna talk. You're gonna ask that person if they actually want to be touched, because they might not want to be touched. And if they want to be touched, where do they want to be touched? Like, we're not clairvoyant. We might think we are. We might think that we're so spiritually evolved that we know what another person needs. We don't. Let me get you out of the dream. We don't. No matter how intuitive or highly sensitive you are, we never know what's happening in another person. I think this is a part where we might be a bit humble. We don't know. So we're going to talk about it. We might be good guessing, And we might be right a lot of the times, but there will be a few times every 100 times where you're wrong. And that's the part where you can actually re-traumatize someone. So we're going to talk, we're going to speak about boundaries, we're going to let the other person know what our heart limits are, what our soft limits are, and I can tell you more about what all that is. And only then we're going to play. Only then we're going to touch. So that's how we take care of safety. So let me take a breath and a sip of tea. And check what the other questions were. If you have questions, feel free to keep them coming. I'll see what I can do. Oh yeah, I promised you to talk about how Kinky Tantra can what did I write? Something about chakras. So how it can actually strengthen your connection to your body and how it can boost your chakras. So I already talked a bit about how you can strengthen the connection to your body through practices like Tantra and Kink. And someone asked, like, how can it improve the connection, especially to my manipura? Your manipura, for the people who don't know what chakras are or what a manipura is, this is your third chakra. A chakra is, the literal translation is wheel, and they are like energy centra that we have in our body. And depending on which tradition you follow, there might be 7, there might be many more. But taking the one with the 7 chakras, the 7 main chakras, the manipura is located on your solar plexus. So that's like there. It's like you got my boobs like right in the middle of the of the video. It's like where your ribs end, so high up in the belly. This is your center of power, of willpower, of how you see yourself, and it's the space you take in the world, how you position yourself in the world. And it has a lot to do, like your whole boundaries and desires are located in your manipura, your third chakra. So that is completely linked, tightly linked to the practice of kink. Kink has so much to do with your manipura, your place of power, your center, your power center. And for me, in my personal practice, when I started to practice kink, both in the leading and in the following role, I became so much more powerful. I became so much more confident. My willpower chakra, my third chakra, was like growing so much. Suddenly I didn't have much trouble standing in front of groups anymore. I felt more confident what to say to other people. I felt more powerful communicating my boundaries in the whole broad sense of my life. Not just in the bedroom, but in the whole broad sense of my life. So definitely your third chakra is going to get boosted by practicing Kinky Tantra, because there's a lot of emphasis on the third chakra part. Yeah, so yes, and because it's the Tantric version, we take all the chakras along on the journey. We'll breathe into all the chakras. We might practice Tantra or breathing or kink or connecting from different chakras and breathe, feeling that. I'm reading someone who's saying I'm getting bored with BDSM. Yes, because I'm getting bored with BDSM as well. Like a lot of the mainstream literature, well, it's not literature, the mainstream lecture or movies about BDSM, or what you see a lot is all kind of the same, like rich man, intelligent young woman who's like this wallflower, and then, it gets so sexy. So that is not what we're doing here. That's absolutely not what we're doing here. What we're doing is it's an intuitive, kind of a shamanic, deep journey into your own soul and into connection and into like all the parts of you that need some attention. Like, how can you step fully into your power through conscious journeying with other people, using your intuition, using connection, using touch, different flavors of touch, like soft touch, holding, rougher touch, spanking, listening. There's so many flavors of this. Yeah, so my computer switched off, so I'm not sure what the other questions were. There was something about how can Kinky Tantra enrich my already existing tantric practices. Because of all this, because I believe in Tantra, we skip a part. We say everything is welcome, but we kind of forget what we put in the shade. And those shadows, I want to take the shadows into the light. What we call shadows, because kink is perceived as something dark. It's not. It's one of the most playful, fun things that I teach, that I do in my workshops. Like, I have this little thing that I love to do, which I call perverting tantric as, which is like, if I'm at a tantric festival, there will always be someone knowing that I love to spank, and then I start spanking someone at a play party or in Love Lounge, and then it turns different, and the vibe changes, and it always gets so much more playful, and it actually adds depth to connections. And yeah, it's just beautiful. What other questions did we have? If you have questions, let me know. Happy to answer. There was a question about, wait, there we go. How to make sure what you do stays tantric and doesn't turn into something purely sexual and kinky. If you're afraid it gets too sexual, just keep your clothes on. Kinky Tantra does not require nudity at all. You can be completely clothed. You don't need high heels, you don't need leather, you don't need latex, you don't need anything of that. You just need your body and your breath. You just need your body and your breath. I really love teaching people Kinky Tantra with as little tools, like tools beside our body, as possible, because we don't need anything. We just need our own presence, going slow, keep breathing. So keeping it away from something purely sexual and kinky and keeping it tantric. So Tantra is a practice that emphasizes on breath, sound, movement, and touch. So if you feel like it gets too sexy, your energy gets higher and higher and higher, and you might get into like a, let's get something, let's grab something, let's stick something into something, then slow the fuck down. Just slow down, breathe slowly, emphasize on the exhale, slow down, bring your presence back. Who are you with? What do I feel? What senses are being stimulated? And then go from there. So go slow. If you think it's getting too sexual, go slower. Always go slower. How to make sure things stay safe. So that is getting to know your body first. Make sure that you know what your boundaries and desires are for, how they feel. And if you just tune in, I spoke about that at the beginning of the video, how you can tune into that and then have the consent talk. So I spoke about that already. And how to do Kinky Tantra with people with traumas or abuse. That question came back. How to stay out of the freeze, paralyzed mode. If you have serious trauma, just be super careful. Really get to know your body. Notice when you go into a fight or flight situation, when you go into freeze, communicate that you have trauma. And I would say work with a professional first. Like really work with a professional, because you want someone who has experience, who knows when you are going into your bypassing mode. Because for some people, going into submissive mode can be the bypassing, or going into an overly sexual mode can be the bypassing. So you have to know that the person guiding you, or you guiding a person who says they have trauma, that you know what's happening. And you know, these things, and I see this a lot in Tantra and in kink, is that some super inexperienced people offer courses and workshops, and we have to know that what we're playing with is deep shit. Like, it's very deep. Tantra and kink, or the combination of both, we can touch upon very deep trauma. And as a facilitator, as a team, we have to know that we can deal with that. So as a participant, you also have a responsibility here, and that is to check out where you're going. So do check out the teacher you're working with, especially if you know that you have trauma. Please be careful, and please be responsible of where you're going, and take good care of yourself. Get to know your boundaries. Go even slower than you think you want to go, and take super good care of yourself. Like I can't from here tell you how to do it in a perfect way, because I don't know what trauma you might have or what your ideas are, where you want to go. So there is a responsibility in the participant, and of course also in the facilitator. Like, only offer this shit when you know what you're doing and if you know how to hold trauma. So that's what I will say on trauma. Yeah, what else? I think that's a lot already. Anyone having a question on Kinky Tantra? What can it do about shame, about your body image and sexual personality? Oh, I like that question. So about shame and your body image. What shall I say about that? To me, spending time with people, with other human beings, in an environment where we're all vulnerable in a way that we are all in a space that is sex positive to some degree, is creating vulnerability, is creating a certain thing in common. And being with people in these spaces, with all these different people with different bodies and different feelings about their bodies in such a space, is already super healing. That is a healing thing on its own. And to me, what I've learned in both Tantra and Kink, and the combination of both, is because of the interactions with people that felt very safe. So I knew it was going to happen. I knew how far it would get. People would mirror me that they loved working with me, that they loved connecting with me, and I knew I was safe. And for me, this part, because I used to have super bad body image, and I used to have a very low view on my own sexuality, and there was a lot of shame both in my body image and my sexuality. A lot. Like, I was quite extreme for a long time. And getting to know my boundaries and learning to voice them, which is something that I love a lot about the kink scene, is that we learn to love to voice our boundaries, limitations, heart limits, soft limits, again and again and again. And then knowing that those would be honored, make me feel safe to open up. We need safety to feel free. That is a human thing. We need to feel safe to some degree to open up and to show our deepest depths. And what will happen in exercises is that because I felt safe enough to open, the shame would come up even more. And I would learn to voice it. And then I would get an honest mirror, because the thing with shame is the only learned emotion. Like, we got many emotions and they can come from within. We didn't learn them. They're a human thing. But shame is a taught emotion. It's something we learn. So it comes from what people tell us. It comes from the magazines we read, where people with impossible bodies that we think are perfect and what we need to be like are coming into our awareness. And we create shame because we don't look like that. We don't behave like that. We're not like that. And in these safer spaces that we create, in these workshops, or at least my aim, there is space for this to come up. And because we were taught, because this shame is a taught thing, it's almost never real. It's almost never the truth. So when that comes to the surface, this body image and the shame around it, around the body image and shame around the sex, then people can reflect a different reality to us. And then we can start to teach ourselves that our thoughts and our beliefs are not true. And then we can heal. So yeah, in my workshops, sometimes I invite people to take some clothes off and to show their bodies and to just tell the story of their body and to not do anything, to not go into any sexual something or whatever, but to just expose themselves, be seen, be witnessed, which can be such a healing experience. So Kinky Tantra can do a lot for you. Like, one of the things I learned, I told you Kinky Tantra is fun, so let's not be too serious all the time. Like, one of the things I learned is that people love to spank my butt. My butt is not tiny. I'm a curvy woman. I'm not fat, but I'm curvy. I've got boobs, I've got a butt, and my butt is very spankable. So every time when someone would like play with my ass, I would get compliments and people would be like, this butt is so fucking yummy. And it made me love my butt. And I started to love all my curves more and more and more. So it's very helpful. It's very helpful. And also because we create these spaces where we're very clear about this is the level or this is the amount of sexuality that we tolerate in this workshop space. There is this safety. People feel safer to open up in certain degrees of sexuality or cuddling or kinky play without sex. Like, kink and sex is not the same thing in my world. It's two completely different things. They are both forms of intimacy, just like sex and cuddles are different, or cuddles and kink are different, and kink and sex is different. So you can have both at the same time, but you don't have to. Play can be either kinky or sexy or both. So to learn to relax into something kinky, know that I can express my desires and boundaries there because that's what the teacher tells us to do. So I'm practicing, so I'm getting better at it. Our brains need repetition to get better at something. I get to do it outside of the workshop room too, and I'm learning to do that in my bedroom as well. So I'm getting more confidence and more able to express what I actually want in bed. And then my sex life is getting better and I feel more confident about my sex life. At least this is how things happened in my past. Yes, and someone said combo clarity. These dots are combo. I did combo 2 days ago, which is another story. If you're curious about what combo is, Kambo, check my blog. There are some articles on combo. You can read what it is, and why it's awesome, and why it's a rough ride. Okay, I'm going to give you about 10 more seconds to put in some questions related to the topic of Kinky Tantra. And if not, I think this monologue was already quite long. And I'm happy to call it a night and to relax. So let me know. So let's take a breath together, all you people who are here with me. Let's take a deep breath, breathing in, breathing out. Thank you so much for sharing time with me. I really appreciate you being here with me and listening to this. And as I announced in my announcement of this Facebook Live, I am doing a full weekend of Kinky Tantra, November 16 to 18. So it's next weekend. It's not 10 days. It's going to be super fucking awesome. So it's 3 days where we're going to do an ancient tantric ritual called a puja on a Friday, a full-on intensive day on Saturday, and still intensive day on Sunday, extending into an extra long play party, so where you can practice all your kinky tantric or other skills that you like to practice. So it's near Utrecht in the center of the Netherlands. It's totally worth flying in for. It's very easy to fly to the Netherlands or to just come over if you're in the Netherlands already. And there are still some tickets, and if you need some financial support to come over, let me know. I'm always very willing to sort things out with you and help you out. So if you feel a pull, if you feel your belly buzz when you hear me talking about Kinky Tantra, when you read it, check out the event. I'll put the link here as well. There's lots of explanations in the event text. I would love to play with you. Like, this is well, all my workshops are my favorites, but this is definitely one of the workshops that I love teaching most. And I'm gonna travel with it next year, so I might not do it that often in the Netherlands next year, but I'll do it in 10 days, and 3 days you get to spend them with me. I've got the most awesome team Ready? This is going to be so much fun. It's going to be so much depth. And you're going to go home with new tools, new experiences, deeply connected to your body, a whole community, a whole new tribe of people around you that are like you, that love to explore in the ways you do. You get a whole community next to this workshop. So I really hope you consider joining. Let me know if you need any information or help to come. So I'm going to call it a night. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Let me know if you have more questions. I might do another live video on Kinky Tantra, because I think it's something super awesome, and you don't need any experience in any of them, of Tantra or Kink, to come to this workshop. This is beginner friendly and also advanced people friendly. Like, you can play at your level of advancedness and still learn new things. All right, I'm really gonna call it a night, and see you again somewhere, and stay connected. Keep following me, and yeah, be good wherever you are. Sending you warm love. Mwah. Bye bye.